Hello everyone, welcome to our presentation about seeking asylum in the UK. In this short video, we'll cover 7 vital parts that you need to know about this topic. This includes definitions and rights of asylum seekers, the application process, nationality and border bills, who can receive asylum support, benefits of asylum seekers, legal services available, and finally, how to get support. We hope you enjoy our presentation and find it useful. Firstly, we'll cover definitions and legislation. So, who is an asylum seeker? An asylum seeker is a person who has left their country and is seeking protection from persecution and serious human rights violation in another country, but who hasn't yet been legally recognized as a refugee and is waiting to receive a decision on their asylum claim. This has to be distinguished from what a refugee is, and a refugee is a person who has fled their own country because they are at risk of a serious human rights violations and persecutions there, but they also have right to international protection. The Refugee Convention 1951 is not a UK immigration legislation. It is an international human rights law designed to remedy the problems that arise when people or groups of people can no longer rely on their state to protect their most fundamental human rights. Refugee rights under the convention are relatively generous compared to other forms of immigration status. States are often reluctant to grant people refugee status. So the rights that you can derive from the convention are lawful stay in the UK, work, study, claim housing and welfare benefits, access free healthcare, and finally reunite with partners and children under the refugee family reunion process.
Next, we'll be taking you through the application process. If you need to stay in the UK because you'll be in danger when you return to your home country, then you would need to claim asylum. Try to claim asylum as soon as possible. Usually, this would be immediately upon arrival at the UK airport. If not, in other words, if you're already in the UK, then make a phone call to book an appointment at the screening office in Croydon. If you don't have a place to live, then you don't need to call. You can just come to the screening office in Croydon. In your application, you can also include your dependents. This means your partner and children under 18. To claim asylum, you have to meet certain requirements. First, you must be unable to live safely in your home country because you fear persecution. Secondly, the persecution must be because of your race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or anything else that puts you at risk back in your home country. However, your claim will not be considered if you are from an European Union country or if you have traveled through another safe country on the way to the UK, or if you have a connection to a safe third country where you could claim asylum instead. The next step after you claim asylum is the screening interview. This is a short interview where you'll be asked basic questions about you, your background, and family. After this interview, you'll be sent an ALC card that proves that you have claimed asylum. Based on this interview, the Home Office decides if your asylum claim can be considered. If it's successful, then you'll move on to the next asylum interview. You could be expected to wait a few months or even a year for the next interview, so don't worry that it takes time. The documents that you should bring to this interview are passports and travel documents, police registration certificates, any identification documents such as driving license or birth certificates, and anything else that you think would help your application. If you're already in the UK, then you should also bring documents to prove your UK address. If you're living in someone else's home, then you also need to get their consent letter. Next is the asylum interview. This is the most important interview, so be prepared to give as much detail and remember to include all the important information about your case. If possible, try to meet a lawyer before this interview. You'll be given a translator during the interview. Afterwards, you'll be given a recording of this interview. Check this recording for any mistakes or misunderstandings and notify the Home Office if you spotted any. Then the Home Office gives you a decision about your case. There are 4 outcomes. The first outcome is that you're successfully granted refugee status. This is when the Home Office decides that you do need protection under the international law. Under this, you can stay in the UK for 5 years, and in the meantime, you can work, claim social benefits, access to accommodation, and you may be able to apply for family reunion. After 5 years of refugee status, you can then apply for indefinite leave to remain. And after 1 year of indefinite leave to remain, you can then apply for British citizenship. The second option is that you are not granted refugee status, but you can still remain in the UK. This is when you can remain in the UK under humanitarian protection. This is granted because the risk of persecution is not just to you specifically, but is more general, such as a war. Under this, you can remain in the UK for 5 years, and you're given almost all the same rights as refugee status. However, there are some differences, such as you're not entitled to a Refugee Convention travel document. So if you want to travel, you will need to use your national passport or apply for a certificate of travel if you are unreasonably refused a passport by your home country. The third option is other leave to remain. This is when you can remain in the UK for medical reasons, human rights reasons, or other compassionate reasons where making you return to your home country would be a violation of international law. Under this, you're usually given the right to remain in the UK for 2.5 years, but the duration can differ case by case. Under this, you can work and get social benefits. However, there are some limits to access to higher education. After this period of roughly 2.5 years is over, you can apply for an extension. The fourth outcome is when your asylum claim is refused. This is when you'll be asked to leave the UK. Do not worry if this is the case. More than 66% of asylum seekers have their first application refused. This is often due to insufficient evidence. If you are refused, you can appeal this decision, especially if there is new evidence. Many appeals are ultimately successful. However, if you do not appeal in the permitted time, then you must leave by yourself or you'll be forced to leave. So look at the decision that the Home Office has given you and speak to your lawyer as soon as possible. Next, we'll be taking you through the appeal process. So you have the right to appeal to the first-tier tribunal if the Home Office refuses your application. To appeal, you have to state the reasons why you're appealing. This might be because the decision is a breach of the Refugee Convention, or the decision is unlawful by a breach of the European Convention on Human Rights, or if you are a European Economic Area national, then if the decision is incompatible with EU law, then you also have a claim. The cost for appealing is £80 without a hearing and £140 with a hearing. It'll be free if you get legal aid, or if you get asylum support, or if you're under 18 years old in a local authority care. There is also financial help available if you have low income. You must appeal before the deadline. You may still be able to appeal even if you miss this deadline, but this is a very rare scenario. So the deadline is, if you are in the UK, you must appeal by 14 days after the decision from the Home Office. If you're not in the UK, then you must appeal by 28 days after you receive the decision from the Home Office. You need these documents in order to appeal. First is the application form. This is available hard copy and electronic. The electronic version is found on the link. You also need the copy of reasons for refusal letter and the notice of decision document sent from the Home Office. You also need document on any additional evidence. And all of these documents must be translated into English with the original version attached. You can also send evidence later on. Based on the documents you provide, the first-tier tribunal gives you a decision, either success or refusal. If the appeal is allowed, your asylum application is successful. so you will be granted refugee status or humanitarian protection or other leave to remain. Please refer to the previous slides for the rights under these successful outcomes. If the appeal is refused, you can still appeal this decision at the upper tribunal. If the first-tier tribunal refused and you want to appeal to the upper tribunal, then you must take these steps. First, you must apply to the first-tier tribunal for permission to appeal at the upper tribunal. The application form will be sent to you when you get the decision from the first-tier tribunal. You can also find it on this link. Appeal to the upper tribunal is free. The deadline for appeal is the same. If you live within the UK, then it'll be 14 days after you receive the decision from the first-tier tribunal. If you live outside the UK, it will be 28 days after you receive the decision from the first-tier tribunal. When you are appealing, you can't just say that you disagree with the decision of the first-tier tribunal. You have to show that the first-tier tribunal made an error of law. For example, the decision made a mistake about the interpretation of the law, or the decision had no evidence or not enough evidence, or the decision was made unfairly. If the first-tier tribunal refused to give you permission to appeal, then you can ask the upper tribunal for permission to appeal. Again, you have to show that the first-tier tribunal made an error of law. However, the deadline is different. This time, it'll be 14 days if you live within the UK, and 1 month if you live outside the UK. You need to bring these documents. First, application form, which can be found on this link, the copy of the first-tier tribunal's decision, the notice of refusal of permission to appeal, or the refusal to admit the application for permission document, and documents on reasons why the tribunal made an error of law. If the permission is granted, there will be a hearing at the upper tribunal. However, if the upper tribunal also refuses to give you permission, you may apply for judicial review. You will be considered appeal rights exhausted if your claim was refused and you have no right to appeal that decision. After this, your asylum support will be stopped. Refused asylum seekers must leave the UK if there is no new evidence to appeal the decision, or if you did not appeal within the required deadline, or if you lost the appeal. In this case, you can either return voluntarily, or you'll be forced to leave the UK. Alternatively, there might be a fresh claim. A fresh claim is possible only when you are recognized as appeal rights exhausted. When there is new evidence after the appeal stage, you can ask the Home Office for a new decision to be taken based on this new evidence. This new evidence might be about new evidence that can support your original asylum claim, change in your circumstances, change of circumstances in your home country, or any legal developments. It will be up to the Home Office to decide if it can be considered a fresh claim. If it is a fresh claim, the Home Office will decide if you can be granted permission to stay. A positive decision means that it is successful. You can remain in the UK. A negative decision means a claim is refused. Again, you may be able to appeal to the first-tier tribunal. Please refer to the previous slides on information about these. Alternatively, the Home Office might decide that your claim is not a fresh claim. Note, the Home Office says that the new claim is not a fresh claim in 85% of cases. In the case that your claim is not a fresh claim, then you might still be able to seek judicial review. Judicial review is different from an appeal. An appeal challenges a decision because you think that they have made a wrong decision. A judicial review challenges how the decision was made because it was, for example, illegal, irrational, or unfair. Judicial review is usually brought by the Home Office or by a court, not by individuals. Judicial review is very complicated, so please get a lawyer if you proceed to this. Paying for a lawyer is very expensive, and note, it is very difficult to get legal aid for judicial review. So in summary, this is a simple flowchart showing the steps in the application process. Feel free to pause the slide. And these are the steps of the appeal process.
The new Nationality and Borders Bill is very important as it has serious effects on asylum seekers. It has sparked a lot of controversy and protest against it. So the background of this bill is that known illegal entry in 2020 was around 16,000 people, and the number of people with no right to be in the UK was being removed and has been steadily declining for several years due to legal challenges. As a result, there are now over 10,000 foreign national offenders circulating on the streets, posing a risk to the public. So this bill's content is that if the British government wants to remove someone's citizenship, it will no longer need to tell them. The law will be used in exceptional circumstances on people who pose the most risk to the UK. Examples of such circumstances include national security reasons, maintaining relations with other countries, and in the public interest. So when will this bill be enforced? Currently, it is going through the House of Lords right now, so it is not law yet, but it is likely to be passed very soon, which could be in a few months. The effect of this bill on asylum seekers is that even though everyone has a right to a nationality, so people cannot be left stateless, it is possible to strip people of their citizenship if they have another nationality to fall back on. For example, if they have dual citizenship or if it is possible to get citizenship elsewhere, such as the country that their parents come from.
Hello, my name is Alexandra and I'm a volunteer KCO Street Law. Today we'll be taking you through welfare support. Firstly, who can receive asylum support? So if you are homeless and if you do not have enough money to buy food, if your asylum has been refused but you can provide a reason as to why you cannot leave the UK, then you can receive asylum support. I would advise you to apply as soon as possible. This could help you receive short-term housing, a payment for food and toiletries, and help with medical prescriptions. Now, what help is actually provided though? So you could get housing support, and this is provided even if you have been refused asylum. And the type of housing you could get is a flat, a house, a hostel, and a bed and breakfast. However, you cannot choose where you live, and it is likely that you will be moved to another part of the UK after your application has been processed. Now, this is known as the dispersal policy, and you will need a lawyer to challenge this. Some acceptable exceptions for this include medical reasons not to travel, risking racial harassment, or risking the wealth of a child. Nonetheless, I would advise you to find a solicitor to help you with this. The next type of support you could get is financial support. So with this, you would be given an Aspen card. An Aspen card is a debit card given to UK asylum seekers by the Home Office. And essentially this provides basic subsistence support by weekly payments that include £39.63. Now, in order for you to receive this, you would have to apply through the asylum support application form, which you can see on the slide. The next type of support you could get is specifically for mothers and young children, and it is financial support. So if your baby is due in 8 weeks or less, or if your baby is under 6 weeks old, then you can apply for maternity payment when you apply for asylum support. And if your asylum has been accepted, this could amount to £300 as a one-off payment. And if you have been refused asylum, this could amount to £200, £250 as a one-off payment too. You can also apply for maternity grant by requesting Form MATB1 from your doctor. If you are a pregnant mother, you could get an extra £3 per week. If you're a mother of a baby that is under 1 year old, you could get an extra £5 per week. And if you're a mother of a child aged 1 to 3, you could also get an extra £3 per week. The next type of support you could get is relating to healthcare. You could get free healthcare in the UK. This includes free hospital consultation, hospital treatment, prescriptions for medicine, dental care, eyesight tests, and even help paying for glasses. Now, this would be done through the NHS, for which you can find the telephone listed on the telephone number listed on the slide. In terms of your child's education, all state schools in the UK are free. Children from the ages of 5 to 17 must attend school. And your child may also be able to apply for free school meals. They would have to be means tested, and if the requirements are satisfied, then your child could get free meals at school. In terms of your right to work, you can apply with the Home Office for permission to work in two situations. Firstly, if you have been waiting for 12 months for the decision on your asylum claim. And secondly, if you can provide evidence that the delay is not your fault. You must follow the guidelines laid out on the website of the Home Office when applying. And if you are granted permission to work, you can only be employed in a post on the list of shortage occupations. Now, do these apply even if you have been refused asylum? So this is referred to as the hard case or Section 4 support. And essentially, even if you have been refused asylum, you are still eligible for financial assistance. However, only if, firstly, you are destitute or likely to become destitute within the 14 days. Secondly, if you satisfy one of the following conditions, and these include if you are taking all reasonable steps to leave the UK, if you are unable to leave the UK because of physical impediment to travel or for some other medical reason, if you are unable to leave the UK because, in the opinion of the Home Secretary, there is no viable route of return, if you have applied for judicial review of the asylum refusal, and if the provision of accommodation is necessary to avoid breaching your human rights. If you meet these conditions, then yes, you could apply even if you have been refused asylum. Now, in terms of legal representation, you can get help from a legal advisor if you need help with, for example, helping you with filling in the right forms, representing you at tribunal, and anything else you could potentially need help with. Now, where could you get legal help from? So I would advise you to use the Office of the Immigration Services Commission Advisor, known as the OISC. Or you could alternatively find a solicitor. However, I would advise you to ask them how much you will need to pay for the work, and always keep signed and dated receipts, as this could be really useful in case anything goes wrong. You can also get help from a number of organisations for free. These include the Law Centres Network, Citizens Advice, the Joint Council for the Welfare of Immigrants, Community Legal Centre, and a plethora of other organisations. The links for these you can find on this slide. Now, how do you qualify for legal aid? So firstly, what areas of law are eligible? So asylum, challenges to immigration detention, some domestic abuse victims of modern slavery, and some types of judicial review are eligible for legal aid. You must, however, meet certain financial conditions to qualify. So your income or combined income, if you have a partner, shouldn't be more than $2,657 a month before tax. Your savings or combined savings, if you have a partner, shouldn't be more than £8,000. And if you are under 18, you should contact CLA without having to complete the financial assessment. And if you receive S4 or S96 financial support, you only need to satisfy the savings test. A merits test would have to be undertaken. So a solicitor would assess the prospects of success, and there would be different tests for different aspects of the case. There are also some other useful contacts that I would like you to take note of. So there is the Asylum Help UK, which is for adult asylum seekers of the dependents of an adult asylum seeker. There is the Asylum Support Application UK, if you need financial support or applying for asylum support. If you are a child in the UK on your own and applying for asylum, then there is Children's Panel, that's for England only. And some other very useful contacts include the Voluntary Return Service, the Refugee Council, and the British Red Cross. The King's Legal Clinic also offers one-off legal advice on immigration and asylum inquiries, and this advice is provided by solicitors and also King's Law students that provide support. And if you would like to submit an inquiry, please visit the link on the slide. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope this has been really helpful.